Hi, hello, and welcome everyone. Welcome to another reaction video. Today we are going to find out how to piss off English people or how to avoid pissing off English people because that's what I do want to do. I don't want to offend anyone. Just a little disclaimer before we start the video. I'm going to use both terms today. I'm going to use a term to be pissed at something, and I'm going to use a term to be pissed off at something. I do know, out of my experience of watching 4 years of Doctor Who online, that indeed British people do not use the term to be pissed at something or someone or in general because it actually means to be drunk. But in America, people are using that definition. So in America, to be pissed or to be pissed off is quite the same as far as I know. In the UK, it has different meanings, but just so you know, since I do have people watching from the UK, also people watching from the US, I'm going to use both terms depending on the mood that I'm in while I'm saying that actual sentence. So just so you know, I do always mean to piss off somebody, even I only use the term piss. So now that I've said this a million times, those words, I don't want to do that again. I have actually watched some of those videos before, like 5 years ago, before I went to London, because I did want to learn how to not make people angry. And I do know some things, so I might know maybe one or two things that he's going to mention in the video. For example, I do know that if you use the electrical stair thingy, what's it called? Escalator, elevator? No, that's the one who goes up and down like this. What are those electrical stairs called? I'm sorry, I'm missing the term at the moment, but you know what I mean. That you have to stand on the right side only. Because if you stand on the left side, people can't pass you and people in a rush have to pass you by. So please just stand on the right side. So that's one thing I remember because I did forget about it when I actually went to London once or twice and people were really angry at me and shouting. So I'm not gonna do that mistake again. I'm not gonna stand on the left side, only if I don't remember. And now we'll see how else you can piss off English people in order to learn and not to do that when you go there. By the way, channel's called Wolters World. We've already watched one video of him talking about English breakfast, which was very educational and very, very good. So if you do want to learn anything about the UK or other parts of the world, I think he also has videos about Germany, if I remember correctly. Just subscribe to his channel, like his videos, because he's a really, really, really good guy and he explains things so well and you can really learn something from them. Okay, so let's see what he has to say about pissing people off in England.
Hey there, fellow travelers. Mark here with Wolters World, and today we're in
Hello.
Chester, England, and today we're going to talk about are some of the kind of faux pas or traveler faux pas that travelers do when they travel to England that might upset the locals, okay? Because we don't want to upset the locals when we're here, because
No,
the
we
English
don't.
are super awesome to tourists when they come here. So be awesome to them, all right? And the first thing that tourists sometimes upset the locals with, and it might be different in your country than here, that's queue jumping. You know, jumping the line, skipping the line. Look, in England,
Oh,
queue
okay.
culture is a thing. You follow the line. You get behind the person behind you and you wait your turn. Whether you're getting on the tube, the train, at a store, the shop, the post office, wherever, it's always a nice queue waiting in line and no one complains about it.
Just real quick, I do want to mention this clock. It looks so freaking good. I really like it. I'd love to see it in real life. Is that London? No, he's in another town, right? He said he's in Chester, if I remember correctly, so that might be Chester, I don't know. But that is a really, really nice clock.
It's
And
always a nice
also, oh, yeah, this is London. At least this part is London, because that's a Buckingham Palace, if I remember correctly. Oh my gosh, I hope I'm not saying anything wrong here, but I guess that's the Buckingham Palace because I've been there myself. And I still remember it. I still remember being a little bit disappointed when I saw it because I don't know what I expected, to be honest, but you weren't able to really see anything other than what we are seeing right now. So if you watch video material, you really don't have to go there in person. At least that's my opinion. And the same goes for almost every single sightseeing place, at least in Germany, because there were things that I went to, and I was like kind of disappointed when I went there in person, because I was like, okay, there's no difference to actually seeing it on screen, so why did I come here to begin with? But yeah, I was a little bit disappointed when I went there. However, what I did want to say is that the line thing is something that we do in Germany as well. If you don't respect the lines, you're gonna piss off people in Germany as well. So that's not something that I, as a German, would be worried about, that I'd overstep some lines, because that's something I am used to. That's something, it's just general respect for other people who are waiting longer than you.
Queue, waiting in line, and no one complains about it. If you try to like do the bum rush thing to get on the trains or get into shops and stuff like that, don't be surprised if someone says, "Excuse me, sir," because that's not something that happens here. Okay, so make sure you're staying in line. And
Oh, just a quick. Oh, the London Eye. I was there. I didn't really get on it because one, I'm afraid of heights, and two, there were so many people. The line was really long, and we didn't want to wait that long. Also, it was a very, very hot day, so I can imagine that if you sit in a glass thingy for, I don't know how long it takes until it goes round one time, or if you do more rounds than just one. So I can imagine it's gonna be pretty hot in there. That's why we chose not to do that. But we were there, and it was really great because we visited the London Dungeon. That's right next to the London Eye, and it was so freaking good. I still remember every single thing about it, and I loved it. I loved it so freaking much. And I can't recommend you enough. If you visit London, go visit the London Dungeon, because it's really that great. They tell you everything about the history of the city, London, everything that happened in there, in a horror way, like in a horrifying way. And you not only go in there and just let them tell you stuff, there are actors who reenact what has happened back then, and you walk through that. And there are also parts where you run through the building because of some things. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's so horrifying, and it's so freaking enjoyable at the same time. I loved it so freaking much. Okay, let's move on.
make sure you're staying in line. And there's certain people, certain tourists, we know who you are, okay? Make sure you're not queue jumping. Another thing to guarantee to upset a local, and this isn't really a tourist thing that tourists do, but something that's guaranteed to upset the locals, it's just two words: engineering work. Or maybe you might hear this: replacement bus service or industrial action. Look, anything that makes public transportation not work right, that will annoy the English, because it might be that, hey, we are working on the train lines, or this service is not happening right now. And that's one of those things that you can literally see the kind of disappointment come over their faces when you hear the words engineering work, and you're like, oh, replacement bus service. You can literally see their souls leaving their bodies. And the thing is,
Okay, that's something that we have in Germany as well, because we are the masters of having construction sites everywhere, everywhere. We have certain cities in Germany where it seems to never stop. Like they're starting at one end of the city and making their way through the city, and when they're done on the other side, they start from the beginning. And it seems like there's a construction site like everywhere. And you always, every single time you drive into the city, you have to find a new way to get through it, because streets that you were on like 2 days ago are now being cancelled, and you need to go another way. And you always have, it's like a labyrinth, and you have to find your way through. It's horrible. I hate that. I do not really use public transport that much anymore because I do have a car, but I still remember how annoying it was back then, and I can't imagine that. I mean, if it's annoying for us, it's going to be annoying for other people as well, right? So yeah, I do understand it 100%.
Yes, when you come here to England, you'll notice that people are very polite. I mean, not everybody, but in general, people in England are very polite. They're very mannerly. And if you're not mannerly and polite when you're here, that does upset the locals. They do expect a thank you, a please, and they're going to say excuse me if they bump into you and expect the same thing there. That's why pushy tourists and tourist groups that just kind of shove through things, those are things that people in England don't really like very much. It's that kind of irks them. So make sure you are minding your P's and Q's and you're being polite when you are going around. And I know that's
Yeah. So that's something that is a no-brainer to a German person, to be honest, because we are just the same when it comes to that. We love it when people have manners and when people can follow rules and when people do not try and offend other people. That's just 100% the same. So that's nothing that I would have to change in order to not offend people in England when I go there. That's just something, it has to be part of humanity. Humanity only works and functions if people are polite to each other. And like the majority of people, there's always going to be that one person, you know? But if the majority is polite to each other and helps each other and just doesn't try and piss off other people along the way, it's gonna work out so much better, like everything. You learn that when you're a child. Here in Germany, you grow up. That's the one big deal. And parents will always tell you, like my mom told me so many times, you don't want to make other people think, oh my gosh, what kind of person is that? So just behave in a way where people don't have to think that. Just try and don't be an a-hole so that other people will not think bad things about you. Respect them, be kind to them, and treat other people the way you want to be treated. That's one other thing that I did learn. And I guess that's a sentence that every single German child has learned and heard a million of times. Just behave the way you want to be treated by others.
something that people say, well, you should do that anywhere. Well, yeah, it's true. But in some places, a shove here, a push there isn't really a big deal. Here, it's not really cool, okay? So, be polite when you are here. Now, another thing for my American friends that will always get your English friends to kind of roll their eyes at you is if you call football soccer. Look, they call it football because you kick it with your foot. They'll
Oh my gosh. That's so freaking funny. That is so freaking funny. Okay, I'm gonna explain in a minute, but I do want to hear what he has to say about the topic first, and then I'm gonna tell you.
ball soccer. Look, they call it football because you kick it with your foot. They'll have plenty of ways to disparage American football when you call football soccer here. So just call it footy, call it football, or just stay that way. Talk about the Cowboys, or you go back to the U.S. It's fine, okay? I know the Jaguars play here in England occasionally, but come on. Football is football. Soccer is silly to them. Now, another thing that
Okay, so greetings to Jay. I know you're watching the video, and this one. I occasionally talk to JPK, who's on YouTube as well. He's another reactor, and I occasionally talk to him. He's from the UK, and we have talked about exactly this topic a few days ago, where I told him that when I went to school in Germany, I have learned that people in the UK call football soccer, and you would offend them if you called football football, because football is from the US. They are playing football. People in the UK play soccer. So I learned it the exact wrong way. And when I told that to Jay, because when I called football soccer, because I thought I was doing the right thing, he immediately, because he's also a football fan, he immediately told me that I was wrong. In a kind way, he wasn't pissed off, by the way, but he immediately told me that it was wrong and explained to me that I should never ever do that when I get to England. Never ever call football soccer. And then I explained to him that I learned it in school though. So my teacher must have been wrong about that one. And he told me, yeah, she was wrong about that one because if you go to England and you call football soccer, people are gonna be pretty pissed off at you. So I already knew that one, but just because I did indeed offend offend an English person. Wow, I'm looking kind of red today. What's going on? Why am I so red? Wow. Okay, maybe it's because I'm laughing so much. Yeah, that's so funny to me that he mentions the boy because that's something that I did, and I'm so sorry, Jay. I didn't mean to do that, and I'm never gonna do that again. I've learned my lesson, believe me.
Might irk your English friends is if you kind of think that everybody's from London or everything is by London, which you have to realize is England is a whole country. It's not just one city of London. And that's why if you're coming to a place like Chester or you're going to York or whatever, or you meet somebody from here and they go, oh, I'm from York, I'm from Chester. Like, oh, is that near London? No, dude. London's in the south of England. We're in the north of England. There's even the Midlands in between us. Okay? So that's one of those things that people do kind of get upset. They're like, look, there's more to this beautiful country than just London. And that's why it kind of irks them because you'll see that people are very proud of their local village, of their local
I
shire,
can
their local
imagine.
area, so you do have that. But it doesn't matter where you are in England, where, north, south, Midlands, wherever. Another thing that's going to really upset them is you make them a bad.
No, okay. We're gonna get to that in a second, but I just want to pick up where he left us with the point of do not consider like London to be England because there are so many other cities and villages in the country. And I do know exactly where he's coming from because, again, we do have the same problem here in Germany. American reactors, when they start learning about Germany, I do always get the impression that they think Bavaria is Germany. And it kind of pisses me off, to be honest, because most of the German people do not even like Bavaria as a state of Germany. And then they do get all of those pictures in their head about how Germans look and what Germans do, which actually results in them thinking that every single German wears a dirndl, these dresses that Bavarians wear when they go to Oktoberfest or something, and every German drinks beer and all those cliches that they learn, and they think that Germany in general is exactly like that, which it absolutely isn't. Absolutely not. I mean, not even Bavaria is like that. If you go to Oktoberfest, yes, people are gonna dress like that, people are gonna drink, but other than that, you usually don't encounter many people wearing a dirndl, not even in Bavaria. Maybe in restaurants, when you go to Bavarian restaurants in Munich, maybe. But other than that, that's not Germany. And just like I am pissed off whenever I see that Americans do think Bavaria is Germany, I can't imagine people being pissed off by other people thinking that London is England. And I have to admit myself that I've only seen London, but I never ever would have considered London to be England. I just know that it is a city that if you go to England, you have to visit at least one time. But there are so many other beautiful places in England and in the UK as a whole that you have to visit. And I really do want to do that in the future. I'm planning to do so. But I can imagine that people are getting angry for other people, like telling them, oh, yeah, I went to England. I saw everything that there is because I went to London. Yes, I feel them because we go through the same thing here in Germany every now and then. Okay, let's see what else.
North, south, Midlands, wherever. Another thing that's going to really upset them is you make them a bad cup of tea, okay? Because getting a cup of tea here is really, really an important thing, and make sure you're making it right. So if you look online, you'll see like English people like pulling the hair out that they still have left in their head when they see people microwaving water for their tea. Look, get that kettle, and you'll see your hotel, your inn, your bed.
Okay, I have to pause for a second here because I already microwaved my water in order to make tea. I'm guilty of that. And also, I don't know if that pisses off English people, but I can imagine it does. Lately I'm using the coffee maker in order to make tea. I'm putting the filter in and then the tea leaves. And I'm just letting it run. I can imagine that that would piss off people if I did that in England. So how do you do it traditionally? You have the kettle. You have to use a kettle, like for real. If you do the like a water heater thingy, is that allowed? Or if you use an oven, is the kettle the only way? Is that something traditional that like older people follow, or is that something that younger people do as well? Because I can imagine that being like a traditional thing that only older people still follow, and younger people are like, yeah, put that mug in the microwave, I don't care. Because we have traditions here in Germany that older people follow, and younger people are like, oh, come on. Yeah, no, it's always been like that, but maybe there are other ways that you can do it as well, and it's not offending anyone as long as there are no older people around. I don't know. I guess I am guilty of doing that as well, and I'm sorry.
For their tea. Look, get that kettle, and you'll see your hotel, your inn, your bed and breakfast. They'll probably have a kettle in your room that you can
Oh,
use
really?
in order to make tea in your own room, all right? So make it a bad cup of tea, straight off way to get them to go, oh, dude, what's wrong with you? Another thing that'll probably
I'm
annoy your English
sorry.
friends is if you go out and you order beers and you make fun of their ales because they love their ales, and you start ordering things like Coors, which is an American beer. When in a great city like Chester, come on, get the local brews when you're here. Your English friends aren't going to like it if you're not drinking local with them.
Okay, so that's not a problem that I do have because I don't drink beer at all.
Another not cool thing that tourists sometimes do is they go out with locals and then they skip out on their round. Okay, here in the UK and in England and Britain and all around over here, people like to go out to the pubs with their buddies. And you go out and everybody's getting rounds. So you go with 4 buddies, realize that you're going to have 4 rounds. Okay, you're going to be drinking 4 beers. Just accept it. That's the way it is. And you're
What?
going to pay for one of those rounds.
Wait, what? If you go with 4 friends, you gotta drink 4 beers? Because everyone's gonna order one? So you always have to count your friends before you go to any pub with your friends. Because if you go with 8 people, you cannot. Like, is there a limit? If you're having a birthday party and you invite like 15 friends. I mean, I guess if you're having a birthday party, you're the only one who's gonna pay for the rounds. But like if you have 7 or 8 friends, that's not nothing unusual to go out with 7 or 8 friends, right? So you gotta drink 8 beers. What if you skip? What if you just can't do it? I mean, even 4 beers. I'm a person who doesn't drink at all, but if I drink like a non-alcoholic beer or any other beverage, it doesn't even have to be to be beer. I only drink like 1 or 2 beverages, like I don't know, a liter maybe max of beverages. And then I can't anymore. I can't drink more physically. So I would offend my friends if after the second beverage I would stop. And does this only work for beer? Because he said rounds. That could be any other beverage as well, right? And do you have to drink the beverage that your friend orders for you? If it's not only beer. Because if he says, okay, my round is going to be 5 cup of teas, and it's going to be this and that tea, and I don't like that tea, am I obligated to drink it anyways because my friend ordered it for me? Or does it, or if he like orders a beer that I don't like? I don't know how that works. I need more explaining, but I do not go out drinking with friends in London because I've only, or in England because I've only been there once. But I can imagine that this would be something, this would be a rule that I had to break, even if I pissed off people because I just can't drink that much.
And if you're that friend that like skates out, like, oh, get the first couple, then you're like, oh, I gotta go. They're like, dude, I bought a round, he bought a round. Why aren't you getting your round? That's gonna end some
Yeah.
friendships and get you not.
I mean, I can imagine that if you drink all the rounds that your friends buy for you and pay for you, and then before your round starts, you're like, okay, bye then. and you don't pay for anything, I can imagine that this pisses people off. And I would be pissed off myself. I can totally understand that. At least leave the money for your friends if you have to leave early. I mean, there can be like an emergency or something and you have to get home. At least give them the money to buy a round for them before you go. But if they are your friends, your real friends, you don't just leave them hanging there. That would be unfair. I can see that.
Not invited back out to the pub, so don't skip out on the round because you will lose some friends on that. It can be quite annoying and quite rude, really. Now, another thing that kind of, I don't know if it irks them, but it just gets more of the eye-rolling nature that people have when tourists come to England is when they try their British accent. Yeah, just don't. Just don't. Just stop. Just stop.
Yeah.
If you speak English how you speak English. When you try to copy the accent, and I know people, they go to Texas and they go to the south of the U.S. to try to mock the accent and imitate the accent, and they just end up looking like a fool. Here, it's the same
100%.
thing. Now, I will tell you this. The people here in England, they'll never tell you that anything you do here will upset them or annoy them because that's not how they are.
Oh,
But it's one of those things that you probably want to know so you don't look a fool.
wait, they wouldn't tell? Okay. That's interesting because here in Germany they would tell you. Oh, they would tell you. If they are annoyed at anything you do, they tell you straight away. Because if there's one thing that's very precious to Germans, and it's the truth, and they'll tell you. Oh, yeah. So, accents. Fake accents. Again, me as a German watching other reactors from America, and one of them, I'm not going to mention any names, but one of them occasionally trying to do a German accent. I hate it that much. Every single time he's trying to do a German accent, I'd love to jump into the screen and just strangle him for a bit until he stops trying to do the German accent. It's that bad. It's that bad. Please, in general, not only in England, wherever you go, stop trying to copy accents of people in other countries. Accents are a thing that you either have or you don't. It's nothing that you can learn. There are exceptions, don't get me wrong here, but even those exceptions, for example, there is this one character in Buffy the Vampire Slayer where an American actor tried to do the British accent. And for a non-native speaker like me, it sounded pretty good. I really thought he was from England. But then I talked again to Jay, my friend from the UK, and he told me, nah, you absolutely can hear that he's not really from England, that he's just faking the accent. You can hear it. So native speakers will always hear it. Always. It doesn't matter how good you think you are in any language, they'll hear. So stop doing that. And also another thing that I find really funny, and I've talked about this on my other channel before, but whenever I started the Doctor Who reaction, because my English, in the beginning, it was even worse. In the beginning, when I wasn't sure about my personal English accent, I changed every single time I spoke English, I changed my accent. Sometimes it sounded more English, sometimes it sounded more American, sometimes it was something in between, and it was just horrible. But now that I am more used to talking in English, my accent most of the time is more American than English. But something that I have noticed is whenever I watched a Doctor Who episode and all the people in there are speaking like British English and not American English, every single time I start the reaction in the American accent or more Americanish accent, and the further I go into the episode until we get to the review, the more my accent changes from solely Americanish to more British Englishish, if you know what I mean. But this is something that happens unconsciously. I don't do that like on purpose. It's something that just happens, but I find it so freaking funny. But whenever I go to another country, I do not want to try and replicate their accent because it's just something that you don't do. Don't do that. Please don't do that. And if you come to Germany, don't try and do the German accent. Oh, it's so offending. I don't like it. And also, if you are reactive from any other country, stop trying doing the German accent because it annoys Germans as well. Stop doing that. If you're an American reactor who does that, you know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to mention names, but I guess you know who I'm talking about. Okay, let's continue.
Now, another thing I think is important is when you come into England, there's very much, it's not always prim and proper. There's some prim and properness, there's some etiquette out there. And I think one of the etiquette things that some tourists don't realize is you always want to leave a little space. So if you're on public transportation, you're on the bus, you're not sitting right next to the person. You leave a seat in between. If the train's not full, you're not sitting right next to somebody, you're leaving a space in between. If you're going to the bathroom and there's urinals, you don't hike up right next to the next person there if there's other open urinals. So give people a little space.
Yeah,
when
it's
you're
the same
here,
in
'cause
Germany as
they
well.
like a little space. They're not up in your
Yeah.
face kind of stuff here in England.
Yeah,
Okay.
please
Now, I
go
realize
away.
this next one might seem a little
Yeah.
counterintuitive, but honestly, if you tell people that it rains all the time when you come to England, that doesn't go over well either. I know whenever we mention weather in any of our videos about England,
Guilty.
people say, well, last summer we had 40 degrees Celsius and we had sun, and you're right. The weather here, it doesn't rain all the time. I mean, I know it's raining now. It was actually beautiful sunny earlier today when I was going and seeing the sights. I should have filmed then, but honestly, I've gotten sunburned 3 different times visiting England, okay? In the summertime, it can
Really?
be really sunny. It can be bright, but yes, it does rain occasionally, but not all the time. And if you act like it's always raining, need your wellies all the time and your umbrella all the time, no, you don't, okay? And even
I mean, I said guilty because I have asked that people from the UK before. I have asked them, like, listen, I have heard about this cliche. Is it true or not? And then they told me, yeah, it's really not. It's almost the same weather as in Germany. And it rains in Germany many, many times. I wouldn't say most of the time, though, but many times. So you could say the same about Germany as well. Like if you compare it to another country like Italy or Spain or some countries more south of Germany and of the UK, of course it rains less and less the more you go south. So maybe for people who come here to Germany or to the UK from the south, for them it's raining most of the time or almost every single day because they are used to another kind of climate. But if you live in Germany, it's almost the same if you go to the UK. When we were in London, I don't even remember that it rained very much. Once or twice, maybe. So almost the same than in Germany. Not really a big difference.
the locals will be like, yeah, it rains a lot, but not all the time, especially in the summer. Now, another thing that might annoy the locals here is if you don't know the difference between the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, Great Britain, England, Scotland, Wales, how they're all kind of different entities, because people from Scotland identify as Scottish, and the Welsh identify as Welsh, and the English identify as English. But some of them are okay with being British. But the thing is, if you call somebody from Scotland English, or you call somebody from English Scottish, a lot of those people take that as an insult for different ways. And I'm sure people down below will tell me if you tell somebody Scottish, or they're like a Scotsman, what that means, or they're like a Welsh, what that means, or if they're English, what that means. There's a lot of different connotations that are there. So make sure you know where people are from before you blanketly say, oh, you're Scottish, you're Welsh, you're English, you're Irish, you're whatever. Because that's one of the things that might upset people. And then there's...
Okay, so I guess out of all the things that he has talked about in this video, this is the one that I'm most guilty of, because that's a big mistake that I did back when I started with the reactions. I did know that there was like Ireland or Scotland and England, but I had no idea about how to call all of them together, because I thought that England was like the whole of England, including Ireland and Scotland and Wales. So I was corrected in the comments very quickly by people, and I am used to calling it the UK now in order to try not to offend anyone. I still do not know if calling it the UK really includes everyone. I think it does. I'm not 100% sure though, so if I'm still wrong, please let me know in the comments if I do want to talk about everyone and include everyone, if UK is the right term to use. because I don't want to make that mistake again. People were really angry in the comments. I mean, I have had really kind people in the comments. They weren't like angry and shouting at me and stuff, but they eagerly explained how I did wrong when I said like England, and I included Scotland and Wales and everyone. And yeah, I didn't do that on purpose. It was just knowledge that was missing and still is. I kind of do want to learn about that, watching videos and educate myself. So if I'm doing those mistakes again in the beginning, at the start of this channel, please forgive me, because I don't know better. If I know better, I'm going to change.
3 words that will probably make your English friends go, dude, you need to learn some English. And that is math, aluminum, and garage. Because here they don't say
What?
math, aluminum, and garage. They say maths, they say aluminium, and they say garage. Okay? So just know that though we speak the same language, sometimes we pronounce it completely differently. And so that's why sometimes we kind of roll our eyes at each other. And also pronunciation, you know, can be some fun things. I know myself, sometimes when I've ordered food or I've ordered stuff at stores, people kind of like chuckle at me. They're like, oh yeah, I'll get that for you. Yank. And they kind of walk over and get stuff. So some of these things are really annoying. Some of them are kind of silly stuff. But I just wanted you to know a few things that tourists might do that.
Okay, so about that, about saying certain terms and not doing it the right way, the way it is spoken in a particular part of the UK wherever you are, and just making the mistake of pronouncing it in an American way, for example. To me, my experience, my personal experience, English people or UK people in general are not offended or have never been offended about that. On the contrary, I have gotten so many compliments of people telling me that my English is almost perfect, even though I thought my English was as bad as it can get, because I'm missing terms left and right, and sometimes I don't say them in the right way. But people never were offended. On the contrary, they encouraged me to speak more English, and they always complimented me on my English, even though it wasn't perfect to begin with. I haven't had an encounter where, no, not even once, even when I talk to people on Discord, people from the UK, never even once has anyone ever mentioned, oh, you don't say it like that, or you should say that term in a different way or anything. Because if they understand you, and that's also the same here in Germany, if you understand the person, even if that person doesn't use the right term, or even if that person doesn't speak it the way it should be spoken, if you understand it, it's completely fine. I wouldn't be offended if somebody learned German and didn't express themselves in the right way and use the word differently than how you actually use it, or aluminium. I don't know. It wouldn't offend me, and I have never ever encountered even one person from the UK who was offended at me, other than the soccer football thing. Yeah. Is this really a thing? People from the UK, let me know. Are you offended about that? Have you ever told a person, oh, actually, you pronounce this word the wrong way. Actually, it's pronounced the other way, or chuckle at a person if they say a word that's not spoken in the right way. Have you ever done that? Because my personal encounters with people from the UK have been completely different, almost the opposite, but I could be wrong.
Might make their hosts uncomfortable or annoy them or just make them roll their eyes in silliness. So what are things you see tourists do here in England that really upset the locals? Let us know in the comments below so we can all be better travelers.
Okay, thank you so much for the video. Wolters World was a really educational video. I have learned some things that I didn't know before. And also I was able to compare it to stuff that happens in Germany as well. And many things are quite similar, I have to say. There's not that many differences. Okay, let's look at the comments real quick. One of the biggest insults thrown at us Brits by Americans. One that I've heard many times is, if it wasn't for us Americans, you'd all be speaking German right now. Yeah. I know that one. I have read that comment before on like there are, like I said, I'm watching American reactors who comment on German stuff, and I have encountered that comment already from Americans. I don't want to say too much about it, but yeah. Also, one thing I love about Americans visiting the UK is that they usually expect us to sound like either a member of aristocracy or a 19th century chimney sweep. Yeah. Also, I've heard, again, in reactions from other US people, I have heard that Americans think that the British English is not the original English, or not the good English. The American English is a better one. Like I said, I don't want to get into that topic because I do like American English just as much as I like UK English or British English. I love both of them, to be honest, so I don't want to get in the middle of that. Excuse me, there's a K here, which basically translates as "get to the back of it, pal, before you get us up." Yeah. In Germany, we would be more offending, I guess, or most people would be more offending towards the other person who's trying to cross the line or getting in front of it. They'd be like, I'm sorry, do you see this as a line? And the end is on the other way. That's how we Jones would solve this problem. Okay. Thank you so much for watching this video with me. Are there any other things that would really offend people that weren't mentioned in this video? Please let me know about this, because I do want to learn about it. And I'll see you in the next video. Have a nice day. Bye!